Hello everyone! In this lesson, we will be learning how to change the position of HTML elements, like divs, images, and so on, using the transform translate function. Now, every time you want to use the transform property, you'll write it like this: transform, then the transform function you want to apply, which is translate for this lesson, and then parentheses, and inside of those, the value for the function specified. Now, let's talk a little about the translate function. Basically, the translate function moves elements around the browser along the x-axis and the y-axis. So, for example, if I write something like this, transform, translate, 10 pixels, 10 pixels, this will move the element 10 pixels to the right and 10 pixels toward the bottom from its original position. So, let's try that. You can see here in my HTML, all I have is an image that we will try all the functions on. And up here, I have some styles to make the image look good when we view it. And if we go to the browser, you can see that the image is sitting here. So we want to change the position of the image, meaning we want to make it move horizontally or vertically. So first, we want to make it move horizontally. We can do this easily by using the transform translate property. So I'll go back to our code editor and target the image. And when I hover over it, I will add transform. And the function I want is translate. And I want to move it horizontally along the x-axis. So I'll say translate x, and then I'll add the value of the distance I want the element to move. Let's say 500 pixels. And let's go up here and add some transitions so that the movement happens smoothly. So I'll add transition, and then the property we want to change smoothly, which of course is transform, and then the duration of the animation. Let's say 2 seconds. Great! So now what should happen when I hover over the image is that it moves 500 pixels horizontally along the x-axis to the right. So back to the browser. And when I hover over the image, of course it will move smoothly 500 pixels to the right. Now, we can also use negative values for the translate property, and it'll work fine, but the element will move to the left, not to the right. So back to our code editor. And I will go right here and add -500, and when I go back and hover over the image again, it'll move to the left this time. Great. Next, we want to move the image vertically, not horizontally. Easy enough. We'll use translate y instead of x. So I'll go back to our code editor and change this x to a y. So when we use positive values, the image will move toward the bottom. But in this case, we're using negative values, so it should move towards the top. Back to the browser. And when I hover over the image, you can see it moves 500 pixels toward the top. And let's go back to our code editor and use positive 500 pixels. And of course, it will move downward. Now, we can combine these two functions in one function simply called translate. So, back to our code editor. I'll remove this y. Now, the translate function accepts two values. The first value is x, which will move the image along the x-axis. So I will say -500 pixels, for example. And the second value is y, which indicates the movement vertically along the y-axis. Let's say 200 pixels. And now, when I hover over the image, it should move -500 pixels along the x-axis, meaning 500 pixels to the left, and 200 pixels towards the bottom at the same time. And just like that, the image is moving horizontally and vertically at the same time. So to wrap things up, translate is one of the functions that we can use with the transform property, and it allows us to change the position of the HTML elements on the page. It can be translate x, which will move the element horizontally to the right if the value is positive, or to the left if the value is negative. Or it can be translate y, which will move the element vertically toward the bottom if it's positive, or towards the top if it's negative. And we can just use translate, which accepts two values, x and y, which will move the element along both axes at the same time.